Hello, hello everybody. Hello, happy Tuesday. Thanks for joining me. Let's see who we got in the chat here. Hey Sherry in California, love it, love it. We got Nina in Atlanta, Barry, North Carolina, Lola in Indiana, Mary in Ireland. Who else we got? We got Lowell in Hawaii. We got Mary in Texas, Tim in Florida. We got Eric, Rhode Island. Love it, love it. Hey Jill, hey Charmaine. Ooh, we got Brenda in British Columbia. We got Ron in Australia. Look at we're going all over the place. I love it. Hey Vivian in Virginia, Don in Georgia. Excellent. Hey Dave in Texas. Oh, this is so awesome, guys. Hello, everybody. Hey Charmaine in Ontario. We got Carla in North Carolina. We got Scarlett from the UK. We got Boston in the house. We got New Jersey. Hello, Barbara. Hello, Alan. Awesome, awesome. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for spending your Tuesday evening with me again. It's become a weekly tradition now, and I love it. It literally is one of the highlights of my week. I look forward to hanging out with you all so much, just building this awesome community, and for you all to get to interact with each other, right? I've been on YouTube now for a good number of months, and we've been building this beautiful community. And I've had people, when I talk to you individually, either through email or the virtual lessons that some of you take from me, you all say like, oh, it's really fun to get to know each other and get to chat. And these lives are one of the times you all get to interact with each other as well. So I love it. I love it. Yes, Scarlett, totally understand. I'm shocked when people join like in the middle of the night, when it's the middle of the night your time. I do apologize that for right now, the way my schedule is, these Tuesday evenings are probably the times lives will have to be. I do plan on in the future being able to finagle that a bit and have some lives be in afternoons, some in the evening, because I get so many wonderful emails from my viewers on the other side of the ocean, where they'll email me the next morning and say, hey, I couldn't catch your live because it was the middle of the night for me, but I'll rewatch it. So thank you all for joining. Today, we're going to continue this lead sheet conversation that we've been doing for multiple weeks now, because you all made it very clear that you love lead sheets. That's a huge topic for you all. You want to hit the ground running with lead sheets. So I'm here to serve. So last week, we did a deep dive on a lot of different type of chords that you can see in lead sheets. Tonight, we're going to look at different notation symbols that you can find in lead sheets, especially ones that sometimes confuse students and clients that I see. So we're going to go through all that. So if you have paper and pencil, feel free to take notes. And of course, you'll be able to rewatch this video whenever you want to. Awesome, awesome. Hello, let me see the chats, a few more here. Hello. Oh, hey, Dan in Ohio. Hello, hello. Hey, Harry. No, you're not too late. We're just getting started. We are just getting started, my friends. Okay. Also, I want to tell you something fun too that you may have noticed. I uploaded a couple today. Since I started the optional memberships for people that want to help support the channel, I have optional memberships that you can do, where if you see the join button under the video, it'll show you different levels. And so what I've decided I'm going to do as one of the big main perks for members is create these members only videos that deal with lead sheets as well, just as thank you for people who are helping to support the channel. Obviously you don't have to join as a member at all. I'll have a lot of free content for you all, but it does help. I promise every penny goes to helping produce this YouTube channel. So that's going to be one of the big main perks for members. So I went ahead and uploaded 2 today because I made 2 at the same time. And so I'll have multiple ones that I create each month for members, and it'll be lead sheet breakdowns. You'll get a link in the video to download a lead sheet for free. And I walk you through, here's how to play the melody, chords. So it's sort of like choosing a bunch of popular songs. And so it's a way for me to thank you as members, and it's a way to kind of get your money back, because I'm going to be giving you tons of free lead sheets, which you would have to spend money to buy anyways. So I want to throw that out there. So if you are a member, which several of you are, I just uploaded 2 videos today on the channel that you should see that are for my members. And anyone can join anytime. So I just want to give that little plug. No pressure. You absolutely don't have to join, but it's just an extra bonus perk, especially if you want to do more lead sheet rabbit holes with me. The members videos are going to be great places to do that. And I'll upload several every month, and you'll get free lead sheets from them. So you definitely get your money's worth back with that. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the chats about that or email me about that. So here we go. Let's dive into some more lead sheet stuff. So let me bring this up on the screen. Okay, so I created this little PDF. It's not going to be a download. It's just something to have on the screen because I'm going to scroll through different things that we're going to find in lead sheets. All right, so it's just sort of to take notes. So here's what we're going to do. The first big chunk of stuff I want to look at is all of the different ways in a lead sheet that people notate repeating something, or go back to here and jump to here and go to there. And sometimes it can get really confusing for people. And depending on the lead sheet, sometimes the way they write it can be confusing. So I get this question a lot with my piano clients and students of what does that mean? What measure do I go back to? Where do I jump when? It can get kind of complicated, especially with more advanced lead sheets. So this first big chunk is kind of like going through all of the different ways we can write repeats in general. What does it mean to repeat something? But there's a lot of different ways we can do that in a lead sheet. So I'm just going to show you different examples. We're going to go from easiest to annoying. So the first level is, let me bring this up here, making sure all this works. So the first level is, in general, when you see this, in general, in music, this is a repeat sign. It's a bold black line with 2 dots. A lot of you probably already know that. This is sort of the nice way to do it, because when you see this, that means, oh, I need to jump back to something. I need to repeat something. We see this a lot in lead sheets if there is like 2 verses and it's the same music, it's just 2 different lyrics, then you'll just have a repeat sign. Lead sheets like to use repeats because it saves space, it saves paper. Why write it all out again if it's the same, melody for the verse and chorus all over again? So when we see a repeat sign, that means we're going to go back to something. Now, in this example, if you notice, if you see on the screen here, I have one here, but I don't have another one that it's paired with. When that happens, that's not a mistake. That means go all the way back to the beginning. If a lead sheet wants you to repeat and go back to the very beginning of the song, it won't put the other repeat sign. It'll just not have anything. Sometimes they may put a repeat sign to be nice, but oftentimes they don't. So if you see a repeat sign to go backwards, but then you keep scanning like, wait, where am I supposed to go back to? I don't see the repeat sign it's paired with. Then it means go all the way back to the beginning. So in this, if I were seeing this and I saw this and I get here, that means I just go all the way back to the beginning because there's not another repeat sign with it. However, if there had been a repeat sign, like if I'd put a repeat sign here, that would mean I'd just go back to that. So that's one thing that confuses students sometimes because they think it's an error on the sheet music, like it's missing where I'm supposed to go repeat back to. It's not, it just means go all the way back to the beginning. The next level of these repeat signs are if you have what we call endings. So this is where it can be kind of a next level up, because when we see this, it means they want you to go back and repeat something, but then eventually you're going to jump to something else. So here is what it normally looks like in music. You will see the repeat sign, so that big bold line with 2 dots. When it's the 2 dots on the left side of it, that means you're going back. And then you'll go back to where you'll see the first repeat sign, where the 2 dots are on the right of it. Here, when we see these brackets, we call these endings. So this means there's going to be a first ending and there's going to be a second ending. First ending means when you play this for the first time, like if I'm going through and I'm playing it for the first time, when I get here, I play the first ending. But when I repeat and I bounce back, once I get to here, I then jump down and I skip the first ending and I go to the second ending. So anything that's under the bracket that says 1, you play once and you play it the first time. When you repeat, that bracket that had 1 on it, you jump over it once you get to it and you jump to bracket 2 and then you keep going. So you don't play bracket 1 through twice. So you won't play the first ending and the second ending together. It's the second ending is replacing the first ending. So sometimes students and clients, if they're not used to that, they'll write they'll put little stars or arrows or something to visually remind you on the second time through, when I get to the bracket that says 1, I skip it and I jump straight to the bracket that has a 2. So we call those endings. So the super easy, nice way for repeat signs to happen is when it's like this, when it's just a repeat sign and you go back and you repeat something again. The next level is where we have this, endings, where you'll have first ending, second ending. Now, when it comes to endings, another even extra level of that is, let's say a song has 3 verses and it's kind of the same thing and they really want to save paper. They may do where you repeat this like twice or you do it 3 times. So if that was the case, this bracket, you could have a 1 and then have a comma and it would have a 2. And that would mean the first and the second time you're playing through that, you play that bracket. And then the next one that you would jump to would have a 3. And that means on the third time you jump. So when we have endings, first and second endings, it can also be more than just 2 times through. You could have, if a song had 4 verses and they want you to just repeat the same thing 4 different times, then you could have here in this bracket 1, 2, 3, which means the first 3 times play this one. And then this would have a 4, and it would mean on the 4th time, jump. Now that's not uber popular, but sometimes songs will have that if it's very repetitious. I have played lead sheets before that were like that. I actually played a gig last week that had a lead sheet that there were 3 and 4 like repeats. So, but in general, this is very common. A first ending, a second ending. Now, before we go into a new level, that's a different type of level of repeating something, are there any questions about this when it involves these repeat signs, meaning the black bold line with the 2 dots and then endings? Any questions about these before we move on to a new level of repetition? All right, let's see. Let's look at the chats here. Yes, I call this geography. It's like map reading. Absolutely, it's very much like reading a lap. Jumping and skipping, who needs the gym? Absolutely, it's just mental gymnastics, right? Listen, oh my gosh, here's a story for you. A few weeks ago, I played a gig and someone handed me sheet music to play. And it had what I'm about to show you here in a minute. It had that to an extreme level. And it was so annoying because it was literally like 15 pages of sheet music. And once you got to page 13, then you had to jump back to page 3. And then you read, and then the second ending was on page 5. And then once you got to page 6, you had to jump to page 8. Like, it was so frustrating. And I had to make so many pencil markings. And in fact, when I have to do it that fast and I have to flip a ton of pages really fast, I bend the corners so I can feel, because I need to be able to like play really fast and within a second feel what page I'm flipping to, because I don't have time to do that. So I'll like fold the corners to be able to physically feel where I'm flipping really fast. But very annoying. So it exists in the world. Oh, thank you, John. Thank you. Yes, he said, nope, you explained that well. This is sort of, for you all that are at more of a beginner intermediate level, what we've gone so far, that's what you'll see more of. The next stuff I'm going to show you is what you'll see more of in the higher advanced level or higher intermediate level, some advanced level. It just kind of depends. But you will see what I'm about to show you pretty regularly. But this is how you first usually start with repeat signs. Repeating, which is these signs, these bold lines and the 2 dots. How does rhythm work when the change to number 2 ending is in the middle of the measure? Let me read that again. How does rhythm work when the change to number 2 ending is in the middle of the measure? I'm not exactly sure what you mean, Stephen. Is there a way to maybe ask it a different way? How does rhythm work when the change to number 2, when the change in the second ending is in the middle of the measure? I want to answer your question, Stephen, but I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. Maybe word it a different way for me. Let's see. Sherry, you need to scan your music into a probable tablet and get a Bluetooth page turner. Listen, I am very old school when it comes to I want physical paper. I have had so many horror stories in concerts where I've seen people or I've been with people on stage where they're using tablets and the tablet goes out or it locks and freezes, or you accidentally hit the screen too hard or swiped it a little too hard and it skips 2 pages. A lot can go wrong. I'm a huge technology guy, but when it comes to if I'm using music on a stage, I go old school because I can control paper. I can't control when a gadget goes haywire. And I've seen professionals in concert like use an iPad and the iPad goes haywire and they have to like stop and fix it. Horrible. So sometimes old school is the best. Just like at the college I teach at, sometimes, I use a lot of technology in class, and sometimes I get marker and a board and eraser and we go old school. Like technology and old school can be beautiful complements to each other. Okay, let me see. Stephen, the first ending has only 1 note in the first ending. So if you're looking at this first ending, so this bracket, and I should actually say, so I typed this into my music program really fast. This bracket should actually be more like over here, like at the beginning of it. So these full 2 measures are under the first ending. So it can be different rhythms. So the second ending, like this is different rhythm than the first ending. That's why you would have a first and second ending. If they were the exact same thing, then you wouldn't need it. You would do more of this, where you would just sort of repeat it, and then the second time you would go on. So like, for example, here, this tells me they want this thing twice, the exact same thing twice. And then after the second time, then I just keep going. This tells me the reason we have 2 different endings is because whatever is in the first ending is slightly different somehow, or very different somehow than the second ending. Different notes, it can be different rhythms. So that would be why we would have endings. If the first ending and the second ending were the exact same thing, then we wouldn't do the endings. We would just have a normal repeat sign because you would just play the exact same thing twice. So that's also another clue to give you a heads up, knowing if you see brackets and or endings and the music is going to have endings, that tells you I know the second ending is somehow probably going to be different than the first ending somehow. So when I jump to the second ending, I'm going to be very aware of that. So because you can tell, like in this example I just kind of whipped up really fast, it's different notes and different rhythms. So that's a reasoning why we would use endings. Because if they're the same thing, there's no need to write 2 different endings. Let's see. For example, only A is in the measure. Only the A is in the measure. If you're talking about only A is in the measure, if you're talking about the first ending, this note's an F, not an A. If you're talking about this, where like this bracket should have been like start here, then that's my bad. It should have like started right here. So this F like by itself is not meant to be by itself. That's a printing thing. I should have like scooted over a bit. All right. And now I get it. Bracket should have been at the start of the measure. Yes, if you're talking about this measure here, then yes, this bracket technically would be like right here, like over the first one. Yes, the bracket should have been spaced over a bit more. So good catch. Yes, Scarlet, that's what we're about to get to next. The capo and el signo. Okay, great. Okay, let's go on to the next round. So this is the next round of, this is where it can get a little annoying. Students and clients, when they start to have to do this for the first time, they can get annoyed by it because this is where you do a lot of pencil markings to remind yourself, or the story that I just told you of. You have to jump back to here and jump to there and whatnot. This is where it can get kind of annoying. So there's two different philosophies, two different terms, and each of those have multiple brackets. So we're just going to dive into this one by one. Some of these you've probably heard of, some of them you may not have, depends on what level you're at. Okay, in general, you can have two different columns of what we call a DS or a DC. A DS and a DC. C stands for capo, C-A-P-O. S stands for signo, S-E-G-N-O. In general, C means you're going back to the beginning. S means you're going to a sign. So a way to remember it is S means sign, because you're going to find a fancy S in the sheet music. C is going to mean beginning. So S means sign, C means beginning. Now, within those two pillars of a DS or a DC, then there are two different ways of ending that. So we're just going to go step by step. So DS-DC stands for, well, where am I jumping back to? So if it's an S, if I see DS, that means I've got to jump backwards to where I see a fancy S sign. If I see DC, that means I have to jump all the way back to the beginning. So we're going to break this down in different examples. First one is this. So this is very popular to see. DS al coda. What that means is you're playing the music, you're going through it. Once you get to this measure that says DS al coda, it's an S, so that means sign. S equals sign. We're going to find the big fancy S. So look on your screen here. See the big fancy S? It's like a big cursive S that has kind of a line through it, a dot on either side. The signo. Big fancy S. That means DS al coda. That means go back to where you see the S, this fancy S. So that means here is where it is. Whoops. Yeah. So I would jump back from here straight back to here. Now, I purposely did this to where, so it could just fit on a screen, that it's not a big jump. But sometimes it can mean like jump back 3 pages. It depends on how big it is. Now on a lead sheet, it might just mean, like jump back 1 page or, jump a couple of lines up. But it can be as little or as big of a jump as possible. Once you get to the S, so that means jump back to there and start from the S again. So if it says DS al coda, that means once you get to the fancy S, you're going to play again until you get to a measure that says to coda. This means, this is one of the first big things that really trip people up when they're not used to this. This means the first time you're reading through, so let's say I just started this song and I'm playing through all of this. The first time I see to coda, I have to ignore it. I have to pretend like it's not there, because that doesn't kick in until the second time through. So that's where it gets a little tricky, because we're used to, in piano, we think every time we see something, that means do something when I get to it. When it says to coda, you have to ignore it the first time, which can throw people off and trip you up a bit. The second time, once you've gotten to DS al coda, and then you jump back to the S, then the second time through, where it says to coda, then you jump forward to where you see a coda sign, which is this thing right here. It looks like a fancy compass. It's like a circle with a cross. That's called the coda. Sometimes it'll say the word coda, but oftentimes it's just this fancy symbol. So when you get to coda the second time, you immediately jump to coda, and then you play that to the end. And usually the coda is the ending. So once you're jumping to the coda, you're probably getting close to the end of the song. So there are two big things about three things that can be confusing about this. When we do this, this means instantly there's going to be more jumping around. If someone hands me music to sight read, I do a lot of gigs where I'm paid to jump on a stage and literally sight read in front of an audience right off the bat, just music. One of the very first things I look for, besides looking at the key signature and the time signature, one of the very first things I do, like step number 2 that I do, is I scan it really fast for this. I look for, are there DSL codas? Are there codas? Are there S's? Are there signs? Are there repeats? Because you don't want to sight read that in real time and not have had a heads up that's coming, because then you've got to figure out where I'm jumping back to, where the sign is, and where I'm jumping forward to, where the coda is. Because when we have this, usually that means the jumping is a bit bigger than what you could have done with just repeat signs. Repeat signs are the easier way, and everyone in the music world knows repeat signs are easier. So if we're diving into this, that means when I see that, it's going to be bigger jumps. That's why you have it. So I scan that really fast, because it could mean once I get to DSL coda, am I jumping back to a whole other page? Right? I'm going back a page before, and I've got to find and know where that S is. When it says to coda, that's always going to be a jump to, because remember, this to coda, the first time you ignore it, which means there's a whole section of music that comes after the word to coda that's not being played the second time. It's what's being jumped, which means when I see the words to coda, I've got to make a little bit of a leap, and that might be to a new page or several lines down. So then you've got to find coda. So this is a bit of leapfrog. This is why when I'm playing music and I have to sight read especially, I scan for this, because this will be what trips me up if I don't know what's coming. When I see DSL coda, that means I'm gonna have a jump I have to do backwards, and I'm gonna have a jump I have to do forwards. And I have to know that when I see to coda the first time, I ignore it. So there's a lot happening. There's a jumping backwards, a jumping forwards, ignoring something the first time, but not ignoring it the second time. It can get a little bit of if you're not used to it. But this does exist in lead sheets. The more a lead sheet isn't at a beginner level, the more this might happen. This is fairly common. So let me check the chat for a second. Okay, let's see. What we got here? We got reading and playing on the spot. Scary stuff. Yeah, it's fun. It's scary, but it's fun. I have fun with it. I forget to look, so often surprised. Where am I now? Yeah. It's a good habit to get into, of scanning a song before you just start to play it, like looking through the whole thing. Is there anything coming up? I do that too with like key changes. Like I hate when composers do this, or not composers, but whoever writes the music, where they put a giant key change or a time signature change right on a page turn. Oh, that drives me up a wall, because it's so easy to miss. And I have had many a times where I'm sight reading something, I flip a page, and all of a sudden at the top of the page is a huge key change, and I had no idea. And it takes me like a measure or two to realize. So that means you're playing wonky chords. Why do you do that to piano players? Give us a head start. If you have a big change that you need a piano player to do with jumping or time signature changes or key signature changes, put it on a page that we can see it coming, not right at the top of a page flip. That's my little tangent. That makes me so angry when they do that. Because my first thing is, whoever wrote that is not a piano player. Because a piano player would not do that to another piano player. Okay. Yes, don't give up. Of course not. Made of sternness. What we got here? Sorry, I'm catching up on the chats. Yeah, this conversation is about work ethic, discipline. Yeah, you want to be able to have that. Okay, great. Barbara says, pretty much a beginner, and I'm so happy to be explaining this. Yes, that's what I'm here for. Okay, so that was one version. So DS al coda. So when you see S, that means this whole sign thing is going to be used. Okay. Another version of that is, let me see, I'm doing this in order, is what we call a DC al coda. It's almost the same thing, except, oh, let me get this. It's almost the same thing, except remember, S means you are jumping to the fancy S. C means you're going to the beginning. So in some ways, this is easier because if I see DC al coda, that means I don't have to think about like, what am I jumping back to? Where is that at? It's just the beginning. So I just automatically know I jump back to the beginning, no matter how far away, how many pages back the beginning is. But then it's the same concept of once I go back to the beginning and then I play, once I get to coda again, then I jump to coda. So same thing of I ignore the words to coda the first time through. I only focus on the words to coda the second time through. So DS al coda, DC al coda are the same things in terms of we are going to be jumping backwards, and then the second time through, when we see the words to coda, that's when that gets triggered, and then we jump to coda, that coda symbol, which is the circle with the cross. The only difference is, what am I jumping back to? If it's the S, I've got to find the S. I've got to know where it is. So this is where it's good to like mark it, circle it, put star by it, so you can clearly see it. If it's a DC, it just means just go back to the beginning. And that can be a small jump, that could be a big jump. So all of these type of jumps, jump backwards in lead sheets and in sheet music in general, it can be as big or small as you want. I have played many a times where what you're jumping back to is just a couple of lines up, and I've had it where it's like 4 pages back. Like it can be as small or big of a leap as we want. Same thing with to coda. When I see the words to coda, sometimes the coda is on the same page, it's just a little lower. Sometimes it's on the next page. Sometimes it's 4 pages forward. So when I scan for these type of words, I make sure, like, do they exist, and then how far are the leaps? Because that's going to help, because you want to be able to have that. Because the hard thing is, this has to go seamlessly. You can't pause. It has to sound like there was no weird page flips back and forth. You don't want to get to DS or DC and then stop, flip, figure it out, and then start again. And then you see the words to coda, stop, bounce. Like you're not allowed to take breaks. It's steady. It's just a way to save ink on a page. So it can be tricky for piano players. There's pros and cons to it. Sometimes I like it because it does mean it might take a 12-page song and turn it into a 3-page song because it's saving ink. It can also be annoying where if I'm doing a ton of page flips, if I'm in a cranky mood, I would think, I wish they would have just kept writing it out so I didn't have to do all this gymnastics. There's pros and cons to it. And piano players aren't the only people that deal with this. So all musicians deal with it. So that is the stuff dealing with codas. So far we've had 2 different groupings of this. One is where we just have the normal, simple repeat signs. The black lines with 2 dots. This kind of stuff. Easy version is where you just have that going back to a beginning without any endings. Slightly advanced version is where you have endings, a first ending, a second ending. Then we got into stuff that dealt with what if something has a coda. And that's where we have a DS al coda or a DC al coda. Now, let me check in with the chat again here before I show you another thing that goes with this. You're all doing great. Hang in there with me. And let me know in the chats too, have you, depending on, because all of you are kind of at different levels, have you experienced these before? Have you played sheet music that have these before? Are you new and this is new to you? You haven't tried this yet? Let me know where you're at. Charmaine, yes, that is a lot to figure out. You get used to it. But again, that's also why I'm here, right? Because again, I feel bad for people who are new of, how are you supposed to know what all that means, right? It's not like sheet music comes with paragraphs that explain this. It's just assumed you know what it is. So, that's why I'm here to help. That's why I always say there are no dumb questions, I promise you. Because how would you know? Just like last week when we went through all those chord symbols, some of those chord symbols, if you weren't told what they mean, make no sense and just look like gibberish. How are you supposed to know that means that? Like until someone tells you. So there are no dumb questions. I know it as a choir singer for 30 years. Yep. John, this is all new but very useful. Wonderful. I promise you, if you haven't experienced these symbols yet, you will. They're coming. So I'm here to help you now. Lola, yes, colored markers to mark. Yes, absolutely. Yes, I still will mark in my music. I will still circle. I'm a big, for whatever reason, I like stars. I put stars on stuff. I personally don't use markers because it bleeds through the paper, and then I may see color on a paper and think it's something, but it's actually the bleed through. But I do, if I have weird, big, fast leaps, to this day, I'll still put big stars so I can see. I have a student that loves arrows, like an arrow image really resonates with her. So she draws, arrows to places. I know someone that puts hearts because they just are, they love love. So they put hearts in different places. People use colored markers. I know people that will use Post-its. They'll cut up Post-its in little skinny strips and they'll put them on the side of the paper, and not just on the page you're flipping back to, but kind of where on the page. So if the S is on kind of the middle of the page, they'll put it near it. So then they also can see what page I'm flipping to and where on the page my eyesight should be. You can get really creative with how you help with this. How you help yourself. So I'm telling you, even professionals, here's the big secret, even professionals, we do drawings and markers and pencil doodles and stuff. We all do it, okay? If a professional says they don't, they're lying to you. Let's see. Yes, I was very frustrated. I had no idea what they meant. Yes, absolutely. That's what I'm here for. I want to demystify a lot of this stuff. Lead sheets are wonderful once you understand the symbols, because you've heard me preach many times. Lead sheets are fantastic for you all. That's why I love that you want to know about them. That's why I'm going to have so much content on the channel in the near future about lead sheets, both the free videos and the members videos, because lead sheets are great. It's just lead sheets are kind of maps to decode, and you do need help, knowing what those symbols are. See, Don says, it's very helpful, Matt. Clearly, I've been someone who has caused hiccups because I was unsure. Yeah. Carla, I'm looking at my lead sheet for longer. Oh, nice. It has 2 endings and a DCL. Yeah. Yes, there's a lot happening. Tim has seen them and played it, but had to listen to the song to figure out where to go. Yes, that happens a lot too. If you don't have someone to tell you. Lola, use highlighters. Yep. Scarlett, my brain is too slow now to learn all this, so hats off to all the adult beginners. Just be patient with yourself, right? That's what I tell everyone. Be patient with yourself. I don't expect anyone to pick up on this crazy fast. Let's see, Barry, would you ever go to the coda on the first repeat? Let me make sure I understand what you're asking. Would you ever go to the coda on the first repeat? If I think I know what you're asking, if there is a first and second ending, so let's say here's your sheet music, you're reading through this first and second ending, probably that's going to be before all the coda stuff happens. If it then says DS al coda, and you go S, and then you play until you see the words to coda, if the words to coda show up before you start to get to the first and second endings, then you jump. If it's after, then you would still repeat like normal. You'd still do the first ending, second ending again. unless there was some text, because sometimes sheet music will have text that'll say like, you know, skip first ending on the repeat or something like that if they really want to kind of get confusing. But in my experience, normally if there's repeats in first and second endings, that kind of happens before the codas come into play. But if it is part of the repeated section between the S symbol or the beginning, if it was C, and then the words to coda, if there are repeats in that, then you do them again. Because the repeating means do all of that again. I hope that helps. Oh, Scarlett, sorry, you didn't remember my last post. I said I'm glad I learned this as a kid. Great, excellent, Scarlett, terrific. Okay, now, next level, let's move on to the next level of this. It's not the next level, it's kind of the same level, just different. So, besides codas, we also have FINE. It looks like fine, fine. So this is if we don't want codas. So codas are kind of an attached ending. So I have a DSL coda, I see the big fancy S, I go through until I see the words to coda, and then I jump to a coda, and like the coda is its own, it's like an ending. Fine means you're going to do a leap back, but you're not going to have to do a leap forward. So it can be a little easier than the coda because you're not doing all the gymnastics. You're just doing half the gymnastics. So here's what this can look like. Let me make sure I have the right one first. That's the coda one. Okay, so here, if you can see here, I have DC Al fine. Now, this means, let's pretend like this is the start of a song. And it's these three lines. I play, I start, I play, I play, I play, I play. Music, yay, music, 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 music. I skip where it says fine. I skip that because that's where we're going to get you later. I keep going. I play until I see DC Al fine. So remember, C means go back to the beginning. So when I see DC Al fine, that means I jump back to the beginning, and this time from wherever I started from, so if it's DC, it's the beginning, I play, and then once I get to fine, I end. So there is something good and something annoying about this. The good thing is it's not as much leaping because I'm not then jumping forward to a coda. I just have to jump back to something. So if it's DC, I'm jumping back to the beginning, and then I just play through it again until I get to fine. The annoying thing is, it can be kind of a weird psychological thing of the first time I get to this, and I see this on sheet music, that feels like it's saying stop, but it's not. I have to keep going and ignore it the first time because I have to keep going until I get to DC Al fine. And then jump back, and then go. So it's sort of like you're getting to the ending of a song in the middle of a song. And so you have to bypass the ending the first time, and then once you go back, then you get to end it. So I hope that makes sense. So this is different than a coda, because a coda is going to be its own separate ending section that you jump to. This is saying what we're playing already, the ending is going to be in there somewhere. So I'm just having you ignore that this says this measure is the end the first time. Just ignore that, keep going. And then once I get to DC Al fine, I go back to the beginning, and then the second time, then I stop. So it'd be kind of like if you drove the same road twice, and the first time there wasn't a stop sign, or you were allowed to ignore the stop sign, and then the second time you stopped. So it's like putting the ending in the middle. So that can be the part that is a little tricky because it feels weird, right? If I see bold line in the word fine, that could feel like oh, stop. But you ignore the stop sign the first time through. Now, that's the exact same thing for DS Al fine. It's the only difference is just like with coda, remember DS means what you're jumping back to is the fancy S. DC means you're just jumping back to the beginning. So if I see DS Al fine here, that means, okay, I'm jumping backwards. I got to find the fancy S. So here you can see if this was the beginning of the song, I'm not jumping back to the beginning. I'm going to jump back to the fancy S. And then, I'm trying to get this to work. All right, then I just keep playing again, but then I stop where it says fine. So DS, DC are mean the same things of I'm jumping backwards. It's just S means I'm jumping backwards to a fancy S sign that's somewhere in the middle of the music. DC means I'm jumping back to the beginning. So S and C are referring to where are you going behind you? What are you jumping back to? Fine or coda are referring to how am I ending? What am I ending at? Coda means I am jumping to a whole ending section at the end of the sheet music. Fine means the ending is already there. I just have to know the second time through to stop there. And that's the ending. So, how are we feeling about all that? That is a lot. All right. Oh, Scarlett, don't apologize. I know it's super late. Thanks for hanging out with us. I appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to catch up here with the chat. Mary, it's a great refresh for me. I didn't go into all this detail. Yeah. Thank you, Mary. Great job, Matt. This stuff isn't easy to explain. Probably easier to follow on the sheet than to describe. Thank you. Yeah, it's something that if you are not used to this, it can feel very confusing and overwhelming, just like anything, just like a chord. If you've never played a chord before, playing a C major chord for the very first time is a little tricky. Once you get used to it, then it gets easier. So that's why I know, some stuff I talk about on this channel, some of you are brand new, and so it can just feel like an avalanche. Some of you are years ahead of people, and so it's like a nice refresher. And some of you are in the middle of, I kind of know this, but I'm a little foggy on it, which is wonderful. That's why I'm here for you. That's why it's great to work through this stuff together. Remember, there are no dumb questions. We're all supportive of each other, but believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. But yes, this stuff, I promise the more you do it, the easier it gets. It can still be annoying. So like even to me, to this day, as someone that has to do this for a living, I can still get annoyed when someone hands me sheet music and it's really annoying, a lot of gymnastics, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily hard. It's just annoying. So, and you will get to that point. If you're not used to this, you'll get to the point of you'll be able to figure out where you're going. It's just annoying. It's not hard. It's just like an eye roll. Like, oh, really? Which are two different things. Which I would rather something be annoying than difficult. Okay, catch up on the chat here. John said, I thought calculus was tough. Yeah, right. And there's so many. The great thing about music too is there's so many different levels that you can just get off at, like an elevator at any level you want to. So if you don't want to do stuff that's crazy, weird gymnastic stuff, then don't play lead sheets that have that. Just have basic repeat symbols, which a lot of the beginner levels will. Kind of like our chords last week, I purposely walked you all through, and that wasn't even all the chords, that was just sort of a handful of popular chords, but we started with what's considered the easier ones, and then we kept building up, and then once you're at a level that you're like, nope, that's I'm done, like that's too much into the deep end of the pool for me for where I'm at. Great. Then you know your limits. Then you know what you can be proud of that you know so far. And then you have a challenge to motivate yourself of, great, now how can I get to the next level of it? Let's see. Catching up on the chat here. Show us the fancy S again. Sure, yes. It looks like this. Let's see actually if I can. I'm still learning how to do this part of the tech of like this moving window that I have. Is a little tricky in the software. So let's see if I zoom in. Oh, boom, that works. Yes, let me zoom in on what these symbols look like, because I don't know exactly how big it is on your screen. So this is what the fancy S looks like. It literally looks like kind of a cursive cricket S with a line, dash, and 2 dots. It's a very I call it a fancy S. It is an S that is dressed up and ready for a fancy evening. And similarly, I can show you, where's it? Let me zoom out here. Let me find my way through this map. Coda. This is what coda looks like. It's like a big black oval with a cross. So those are the two big symbols. And then everything else are words. So D period C period, or D period S period, or FINE. Now you'll also notice too, let me point this out too, if you can, since I'm zoomed in a little bit. When there are things happening in music that the sheet music wants you to sort of notice for a second, you will have what we call these double bar lines. Bar lines are what divides measures. So measures are the boxes that we put music in. So we have a staff is 5 lines, and then you draw vertical lines. Those are the bar lines. When we have something that needs to catch your attention, like a time signature change, a key signature change, important symbols, words, we often will do this as a double bar line just to give you a little bit of a visual heads up of, hey, something is here that you need to pay attention to. So that's another way that I'm able to scan something really fast, because look here, if you can just see this right off the bat, you can see I've got 2 spots instantly that have 2 double line, 2 different instances of double bar lines. So instantly I can visually tell, oh, something is there that I need to pay attention to, whether it's a symbol or a word. So that's also something that helps. That's why we have double bar lines. Double bar lines mean in the middle of the music, there's something important to see. You'll see this in lead sheets or in full sheet music. When we see things like this, where the line is very thick and black, yes, there are 2 lines here, but it really is like just one thick black line. That means end. Like, we're at the ending, which is why on the fine ones, you'll notice, so like here, this is how I say it can be a little confusing because the ending is in the middle of the song. Notice how, like, if this is my full song, here I can see that that's the ending bar line, because that's the big thick black bar line. But that's not the end of the song. There's still more after it. So instantly I can tell just from the bar lines that, oh, here's a double space bar line. Something is important here. Oh, here is the ending bar line, the thick black bar line, but it's in the middle of the song. Oh, that tells me that's probably the fine. That's where I'm going to be ending in the middle of it once I repeat. Besides symbols and words, big clues that we get that that piano players often ignore until someone points it out to them are bar lines. The way the lines, the vertical lines that end a measure, the way they look, those are big secrets. It's like big heads up. Warning, warning, something to notice. So that's another part of notation with lead sheets and sheet music, the bar lines. If it's a normal bar line, it's like this, singular. If it's a double bar line like this, where they're not thick, but there's 2 of them, that means, hey, something here is worth, like, warning, when you get to this spot, look for something. When you see a big, thick, black bar line, that means this is the stop sign. Okay. Yes, Barry, yes, exactly. Yes, what I said earlier. I don't know if you were here when I said that, but yes. Da capo and disegno. All right, catching up on the chat here. You all doing awesome. Lowell said, good to know, Matt, but I still prefer to make my own music so I don't follow lead sheets that much. Totally fine, totally fine. Yes, not everyone has to do lead sheets. I also am a big fan of just like making stuff up. That's why we do it all. That's why on the channel I try to do it all. Charmaine, we trust you, Matt. Thank you for trusting me. I appreciate it. I'm not just making this stuff up. And I want you to benefit from stuff that sometimes it took me a long time to learn or to master or to figure out. Because again, how are you supposed to know that unless someone tells you? People just assume you're supposed to just automatically know stuff, and then you feel dumb if you need to ask. That's ridiculous, right? Just like I told you, we're all new at something. I am new to YouTube, right? I am a smart man with a career I'm proud of, but I was not a YouTuber until a few months ago. So I had to ask a ton of dumb questions to my friends and colleagues that I knew that had done this sort of stuff. I had to ask the most kindergarten level questions imaginable because I was like, I don't know, what does that button do? What does that mean? How do I make this work? The first time I set up my live, the first live I did, I was so worried, and I spent like an hour and a half setting up for it because I could not figure out how to make all the tech work. Now it takes me 5 minutes. But I wasn't embarrassed to ask silly questions because it's like, I don't know. How are you supposed to know until someone shows you? So that is what I'm here for. Awesome, awesome. Okay, so that is all the repeat stuff. So now in the remaining time, I want to go over a few more questions, especially ones that came in through emails about what can you show this with lead sheets or this with lead sheets. So let's dive into a few more. One was, what if you have, and so I purposely made something like this. Where's it at? This. Okay, so notice here, let me zoom in if I can a bit. One question I got was, what if on a lead sheet, it's like this, where it's just a chord, but then it just lasts for like a long time before a new chord happens? So like, what if it's 3 whole measures? Does that just mean whatever you played the first measure, you just let that ring? Do you have to play it in a bunch of different ways? How do you keep the chord going? Like, what do you do when it's not just chord, 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 but you get to a spot in the music where it's, here's a chord, and that one chord lasts a long time? So in general, here's my answer, and then I'll show you some specifics. So in general, I would not just play the chord like the first time in the first measure and then just not do anything with it and then just play the melody. So I wouldn't go, and then to the next one, right? If the chord is supposed to last that long, it doesn't mean the chord hovers that long. It just means the music keeps going, it's just on that same chord. So you want to still reiterate it, re-emphasize it, whether you want to change how you play it. So if I figure it out, like I want to play the F major in this example this way, I can just keep doing that. Like I can just re-emphasize it. Or I can try to come up with different ways of playing it, kind of like what we talked about a few lives ago, where I showed you different ways of how to take a melody note, how to figure out what to do in your left hand, how to fill it in, where you're filling it in. It's just the same chord, but you're filling it in different ways, especially with how the melody changes. So something like this. It's the concept of however easy or advanced you want to make it, but it's the concept of keep letting the chord have life. So find a way to either like play it again, reiterate it again, or at least play 1 or 2 notes from it to keep it alive. Like, it's just about keeping it alive, right? It's like we're getting ready to get into October. Frankenstein is alive. Keeping it alive. Very rarely, if I see this in a lead sheet and I see that a chord is lasting a long time, which can happen quite a bit actually. There's a lot of pop songs, rock songs, where it's kind of like you jam on this one chord for 4, 6, sometimes 8 measures. That doesn't just mean introduce the chord and then just let it sit and you just play the melody until the next chord. So I hope that helps. Find ways to keep it alive. You can do that at a beginner level where you just keep playing the chord again. You can do it at a more intermediate level where you play the chord and then maybe just like one or 2 notes from it again. An advanced level would be all like you keep playing it in different ways and different inversions that match well the melody note is. You can do it at any level. It's just the same philosophy of keep it going. Don't just hit the chord and let it just hover for measures. Okay? So And then one more thing. Well, actually, let me jump to the chat. Does anyone has a question? You want to have a question about that? Yes, Mary. We all learn it when we learn it, and then sometimes we forget it and we learn it again. Listen, yes. There are so many times that I have to relearn something, or I think I forgot, or I think I don't know something, and then someone says something that clicks a light bulb off in my head, and I go, oh, I knew that. I knew that. Right? You just need a little bit of a push. Okay, awesome. I love you all so much. You all are so much fun to chat with. Okay, so another thing that actually has been brought up, this has been asked several times. Multiple people emailed me about this. I got several comments on videos about this. And I've gotten this question in my one-on-one piano lessons that I give to many of you. Which, by the way, if you are interested, you can do virtual piano lessons with me. You can do one lesson. You can do as many as you want. The link to, I think it's in my video description. Yeah, the link to my video description. In the video description, there's a link where you can go to the website of mine to see information about that if you'd like one-on-one virtual lessons with me, which I love. A lot of you I give lessons to each week because it's a great way to dive more into one-on-one mentorship, whatever level you're at, beginner, advanced, we get to dive in and have fun. Okay, so this is what the question was. So the question was, what do you do when the melody is not in the chord? How do you figure out what to play, especially with what I've shown in other videos and lives where we've talked about, you take the melody and you figure out what you want to do in the left hand and what notes to add in the right hand. But what happens if your melody is not in that chord? Does that just throw everything off? The answer is no. So here's how you can do it. I think I made a section for this too. Let me find this. Okay, here. So I made up this little diddly here where I purposely put the melody notes are not in the chords that are above it. So for example, melody note, a D, but it says a C major chord. Well, a D is not in a C major chord. Then I have a melody note E, but it says G major chord. Well, an E is not in a G major chord. Then I have a D melody note for an A minor chord. Well, a D is not in an A minor chord. So what do? Here's what you do. The rule of thumb is the melody note still needs to be the highest note. It still needs to be the note that is the farthest to the right on the piano, the highest in your right hand. So when you are figuring out what to play under the right hand, so for example, let's just do like a super fast recap. We dove into this a lot more hardcore in previous lives. So if you're really interested in this, go back and check that out. But in general, remember one of my sort of bullet points was, okay, how do you start to figure out how to flesh out a chord in a lead sheet, right? Well, let's pretend like this melody note is a C and the chord is C major. So that makes it easy. Well, I walked you all through how you can take a C major chord in the left hand, but then you remove the middle note, you turn it into something like this, where it's what we call an open chord, a power chord, a 1, 5, then an 8. And then in the right hand, your melody note has to be the highest note, so everything else you add in the right hand has to be beneath it. And so I told you all, add notes from the chord in the right hand as well. So in the left hand, I have C, G, C instead of C, E, G. And my melody note's a C, and I added G and E from the chord under there. Plus I talk about sometimes you can add the magic note, a 2 or whatnot. But in general, that was sort of the formula of how you flesh out something to go from this to this. Again, we did like a whole deep dive live session on this. So if you're really interested in that, go find that one. But that will not change if the melody note is not in the chord. So you only have to do one extra step. So if the melody note, so let's say instead of my melody note was C, which made it easy, but what if it's D? You don't have to ask yourself something super complicated. It's not, okay, how could this be one of those added magic notes and whatnot? It doesn't have to be that. Just whatever the note is, if it's not a note in the chord, it is very close to a note that is in the chord. So for example, D is not in a C major chord, a basic C major chord. But what note could be near it, as close as possible to it, that is in the chord? But remember, it has to be, my melody note has to be on top. So it has to be, well, what note to the left going down what is a note that I could hit as soon as possible that would be in that chord? And most of the time, it's only going to be going down 1 or 2 notes. So D is not in a C major chord, but a C is. So you would then do all the stuff that we just talked about as if C was the melody note. But then, just at the end, change your top note back to the normal melody note. So then your all the stuff underneath the melody note is the same stuff that you would have played and fleshed out if the melody was in the chord. It's just not. Now, I wouldn't do it as if I was playing E, because again, E would be higher than D. So it's whatever the melody note is. We don't want to go higher than that. So let's do another example. G major is G, B, D, but the melody note says E. So I want to ask myself, okay, if E is not in G major, what note super close to E is in G major chord? But it has to be me going this way, because I don't want to go higher than the melody note. So usually it's going to be 1 or 2 notes down. So it's not E, but the next note is D. D is in the G chord. So I'm going to pretend for a second that I'm working with D as my melody note. So then I go through the steps we just talked about. I take a G major chord, I take away that middle note, I add the power chord, so the 1, 5, 8. I fill in my right hand underneath the melody note with notes from the chord. I can maybe add that extra added 2, all that stuff. And again, we did a long deep dive. That's why I'm kind of rushing through it now. We did a whole live session on this a few weeks ago. So definitely check that one out if you haven't. But we do all the same stuff we would have done. And oh, look, now we have this fleshed out chord. So then I just do that same thing, but now I just change the melody note back to where it was. Oh, it wasn't a D, it was an E. So now that measure would be, it's the same, you flush everything out the same way. The only extra step is temporarily imagine the melody note is a note in the chord and one that's right next to it. Now, why would I say one that's right next to it? Because where the melody note is will dictate what notes you fill in underneath. So you still want it to be as close to physically, as close as possible to where physically the note is on the piano. That's why if my melody note is E, I don't want to say, oh, well, let me pretend like this G is the melody note, because that's in a totally different spot. I want to be as close to the area on the piano as possible. That's why you want to go to the very next note that would be in the chord, which again is probably going to just be going down to the left 1, maybe 2 notes. So that is how you would do it. And I got several of you that asked me that question. So don't let the melody note throw you off. Figure out the chord, temporarily change the melody note to something that would be in the melody, in the chord, flesh it out like normal, the way I've shown you if you've been with me in a lot of lives and videos. And then just remember to change the melody note back to what it really is. So one more would be the A minor. This one, so let's do one more. This is for fun. So A minor, an A minor chord is A, C, E. A D melody note, D is not in an A minor chord. So I don't need to complicate it by asking myself, well, could a D be the added 4th and the sus? That's trying to make it too complicated, right? Sometimes we overcomplicate things. Sometimes my piano clients and students overcomplicate something. Sometimes the answer is more of a simple answer. So instead of trying to figure out what a D is, what could it be in like a cool version of an A minor chord, just change the D to something in the A minor chord that's right next to it. So D is not, if my notes are A, C, E. So I ask myself, what note is right here around this area where the D is, to the left, because I don't want to go higher than the melody note, to the left, that is in the chord. Well, what do you know? The note right next to it, C, is in the chord. So I'm going to temporarily pretend like the melody note is C. So then I've got my melody note. I got my A minor chord. I do all the stuff I teach you all to do with the left hand, remove the middle note, add the 8, so it becomes this power chord. So 1, 5, 8, A, E, A. I add notes from the chord under the left hand, or under the right hand, the melody note. So A, E, We got that. If we want to add a cold note, you know, sometimes if it's a minor chord, I like you to add the 7, which I talked about in previous lives too. Check those out in previous videos. So it's all the same thing. Now I just need to remember one last step. Oh, go back to what the melody note was. It wasn't C, it was D, but nothing else changes. Okay, so I hope that helps. I got that question several times this past week, and so it was definitely on my list of like, make sure I talk about that in this live, okay? So don't let it throw you. Don't get confused if a melody note is not in a chord. And don't think that you have to do this weird, crazy brain riddle of, oh my gosh, how do I make that fit? Like, what is that in relationship? Just temporarily change it. Change it to a note in the chord, and then just change it back. Okay, I hope that helps. I really hope that helps. Okay, let me go into the chat. Let's see here. 71 years old, learner from Australia, enjoying so far. Welcome, thank you. I love it. Everyone here is welcome. I do not care how old you are. I do not care what your beginner level is. We are all here and young at heart. Let's see. What if, Lola says, what if you have a diminished 7th chord and the melody note is a half step from one of the notes in the chord? It hurts. It hurts there. Okay. Let me make sure I understand what you're asking. So what if you have a diminished 7th chord? Okay. So a diminished 7th chord would be something like this, if it's not a fully diminished chord. And the melody note is a half step from one of the notes in the chord. Yeah, so, okay. So in general with diminished, yes, diminished cannot be the most pleasant sound, but you would still do this the same way. If the melody note is not part of that chord, change it to something to be part of that chord. Because diminish is going to be a little harsher, a little more of a tension sound anyways, but it's the same concept. Anytime there's not, because this also works if it's a more complicated chord. Just if the melody note is not in the chord, but you're trying to figure out how to fill it out, turn it into something in the chord temporarily, and then just change the melody note back. It'll work. I promise. Okay, Mary says, C chord playing a D note. Is that like a sus2 sound a little shimmery? Yeah, so in this example, like where I had a D note with a C major chord, yes, a D is an added 2, but you don't have to necessarily view it that way in terms of trying to figure it out. Because the melody note may not be like one of those added shimmery notes. So yes, you all know if you've been with me, my heart is all about added 2s. Added 2s are just chef's kiss if it's a major chord, and for minor chord, I'm a big fan of added 7s. But when it comes to figuring out how to flush it out, an easier, quicker way to do it is if it's not a note in the chord, it'll take you longer for a lot of people. It would probably spend more time trying to make that note feel like it's turning the chord into something more complicated. Like for example, the melody note's at E right here, but it's a G major chord. Yes, you could say, oh well, actually, I'm playing a G6 chord, and the 6 is the melody. But if that doesn't come easy to you, it's easier to just change the E to one of the notes in the chord, G, B, or D, and then flush it out that way, and then change the melody. Now, if you're at a more advanced level, then yeah, it is fun to figure out like, okay, well, they want that chord with that note for some reason, right? So yes, technically, you could say that this, my cursor's gone, that the D is really an added second. So it's a C add 2 chord. And because the G has an E melody note that is actually outlining a G6 chord, you could write it like that. The A minor with a D melody note is really actually an A minor add 4. Like if you're more at an intermediate and advanced level, you can enjoy those brain riddles. But if that sounds like your worst nightmare to do right now, then the easier way to do it is change the note to fit the basic chord, and then change the note to play the melody note back to what the original melody note was. So I hope that helps. Again, and this will actually be something that you'll notice I do more often now, because in the last video or two I've uploaded, I made it where the discussion was, here's the beginner level version, here's the intermediate level, here's the advanced level. And I got a lot of great feedback from you all in my video comments and emails you all sent, that a lot of you said you really liked that, because all of you are at different levels and you liked being able to have a level to join in no matter what. So if you're more of an advanced student, you had something in the video for you. If you were a beginner student, you had something in there, versus one video is only geared towards one person. Like, this is only for beginners or only for advanced. So because again, I'm here for you. I see myself as a public servant for you. So the way that you all give me constant feedback, that's why I'm always telling you, like, please send me your emails. Please write in the comments on the YouTube videos, like, what are you liking? What would you like to do more? If I do something in a video that you really like, tell me, because that shows me, oh, do more of that. So the fact that we're going to focus on lead sheets a lot, and that, like, my gift to members are going to be free lead sheets and lead sheet videos just for them, because you all have told me, like, lead sheets are an important topic for you. So that's a great way to, like, for me to gift back to you. And you all definitely made it clear this last week, you really like conversations that, how can you have space for everyone within, well, you see all the chords. How can you have one space for everyone within one conversation? How can you have something that has something for beginners and intermediate and advanced? So I'm going to try to do that more too. So this is also an example of it. So answering the question of, what if the melody note is not in the chord? There's the beginner way to look at it, which is just change the note to a note in the chord, flush it out, then change the note back. And then there's the intermediate advanced level, which is have fun figuring out what that melody note is in the chord. How does it change the chord? And then having fun discovering that. Like, oh, it's actually a G major 6, or it's an E minor add 4. So that way, whatever level you're at, you're good. And then don't feel dumb if you're not ready for the other levels. Just focus on the level you're at. All right, let me look at the chat. Brenda, well done, Matt. Thank you for being patient with us. Of course, that is my job. All right, there are no dumb questions. I don't care how slow it takes you. That's why YouTube is wonderful, because you can rewatch videos all the time and slow them down and go watch one section. And, you know, that's what I love. Even the lives. I love that the lives get saved. So you don't have to remember all of this stuff. That's why I'm able to kind of go through stuff, not at a, you know, I don't want to speed through stuff during a live, but I also don't have to go painstakingly slow either, because you'll have it recorded and you can go back and rewatch any part of it you want to. All right, let's see. Mary, so just use the chord notes to add any extra notes. I might think of it this way. I think if I change the melody note, I can forget to change it back. That's a good point. It's always good to know yourself. So if you think that you would struggle remembering, like, you'll be the person that goes, oh shoot, I forgot to change the note back to the melody, then either make a note for yourself to do that. Like, I actually told a student a couple days ago I was working with, I want you to write a post-it note and put it on top of your piano, because there were certain things we were working on that I want him to remember to do, like, every single time he sits at the piano. And so visual reminders help. Or you can think of it like what you said, what'd you say? So just the chord notes. So just use the chord notes to add any extra notes. Yes, you can think of it like that too. The only reason I encourage you to imagine what note near the melody note is in the chord, because that helps you figure out what chords to add and where to add them, if that makes sense. Because you don't just want to add any notes from the chord, you want to also know where you're putting them, so your hands can fit it nicely. But yes, I love that you all also feel freedom of, if I tell you something or if I show you something in a video, that you also feel complete freedom to just change it a bit, right? Anything I show you, you have my permission to take what I say and throw it in the trash can and ignore it, or do your sort of spin, keep what kind of works, and then, oh, but I kind of view it like that. That's wonderful. I love that, because my style, you know, the reason I have my own unique way of teaching piano is because I picked and chose all throughout the years, all the different type of worlds I've lived in, because you all get to benefit from the fact that I have lived in traditional classical world and 20th century experimental world and musical theater Broadway world and pop rock world and country world and church spiritual gospel world and movie TV video game world and jazz and blues world. Like I've lived in all of it, so I pick all the stuff that works well, because that's a great way to learn music. I don't like that people put those things in boxes, because to me, they're all connected. They're all ingredients to make music. So my style, the way I come up with videos, and that's why I get a lot of beautiful comments from people saying like, oh, I finally understand this. Thank you for explaining it that way, or blah, blah, blah. Because I've learned what works and what doesn't work. And because I also teach for a living as well, because my heart is a teacher, even though I love being a professional industry person. My favorite parts of the week are doing this and like helping people and teaching people, because I don't want to be the only piano player in the world. What works, what clicks for your brain, and then you figure out on your own how that can click. And then if you come up with your own idea, I love it. I love it. So let's see. Would love to understand more about counting rhythms. Yes, rhythm is on my list too. That will definitely be something coming up in the near future, either for a live or a video, or maybe both. Yes, I have a whole list of topics that I'm kind of just working through. And when you all suggest topics in your emails or your video comments, I promise I have a whole document, because again, it really helps me. And so it helps me organize, like, what is it you all want to see? So rhythm has come up. And I promise you, rhythm is a coming. I just try really hard to not put too much stuff in one live or one video, because I don't want to overwhelm you with stuff. I'm a big fan of just focus on one little Lego brick, and we're going to build the Lego set one brick at a time. So thank you for that. Yes, I promise you, rhythm is a coming. See, Mary says, I see what you mean about the extra notes. We'll keep it in mind. Yeah, great. John says, love it. Thank you so much. Ty, very informative. Hey, Ty. Thank you, thank you. Charmaine says, yay, thank you, double exclamation mark. Yes, I promise you, I listened to you all. Like I said, we're doing these lead sheets because 3-4 weeks ago, all the comments made it very clear, like, please, Matt, let's dive into lead sheets. Boom, I love it. I love having you all help guide the road you want me to drive you on. That's what you're here for. We are in this together. We are a family. Let's see, Mary says, all the geography would normally take months or longer to learn and practice is a lot to take in. It is a lot, especially if you're figuring this out on your own. All right, that's why I love helping people. That's why with piano lessons, like if you're interested, you'll notice on the website I emphasize you can do just one lesson with me, or you can do bulk, but I don't make you like sign a contract and like you must do 8 months of lessons. You can do just one with me if you want, if you just want help diving into something as like a jump start. Because what's great about the lessons too is you get a video recording. So the lessons are like this, and we're video chatting together at our pianos. And then when they're done, I send you the video recording. So it's kind of like a double lesson, because traditional lessons are in person and you have to remember everything. In our lessons, you don't have to remember what I showed you for an hour, because then you get a video recording of it to go back and rewatch over and over. So if there's specific things you're wanting to learn, or like this one song you're really wanting help with learning, I do that a lot. Half the people that take lessons with me are in it for like regular, they've been with me for months now. And then some people just do 1 or 2 lessons because they just sort of want my help, kind of, they need a little help driving the car for a little bit. Like, just give me some pointers and then shove me off out of the nest. Happy to do either one. Charmaine, no problem, Matt. Love what you're doing. Thank you so much. Yungpin, hope to learn how to improvise chord arpeggios from you. Yes, improvisation is a big thing that I focus on. That's a big thing I focus on with my virtual students too, because improv is once I sort of know you and know exactly where you're at and working with you, improv is easy to kind of figure out what level I want you to be able to do that at. But in general, yes, I'll have videos dealing with that too. I've made several videos over the last recent months about dealing with improv or composing. I'll have more. And I do want to do a live session in the near future where one of them is you're sitting at your pianos and we improvise and compose music together. I know that may seem weird, like, well, how do you do that if it's a chat? There's a way to do it, because I do it with online students too. So that will also be fun. But yes, I'm a huge, huge believer of improvisation and practicing it. And you don't have to be, an incredible jazz musician to do it. You can improvise really cool stuff on 2 simple chords. So simplicity can be beautiful. See, Tim says, where can a beginner find a good source of lead sheets to practice with at an absolute beginner level? Okay, so great question. The annoying answer is there's not one spot. There are a few really popular websites that, because most people now, we get everything digital, right? It used to be physical books, but most people, we go to Google, right? So spots that I usually send people to if you're wanting to purchase lead sheets, musicnotes.com is a really good one. You just want to make sure you type in whatever a song title is. So let's say I'm looking for a lead sheet for Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I want to make sure if I type in the song title, like Somewhere Over the Rainbow, that I add the words lead sheet. Because if you don't, you're going to get full sheet music, which you don't want. You might get different instruments. If you just Google it, you might get what's called a chord sheet, which is just lyrics with chord symbols. You want a lead sheet. So you want to make sure you put that in the word, in the search. Then, depending on the song, so if I go to musicnotes.com and I type in Somewhere Over the Rainbow lead sheet, it may show just one option, or it may show tons of different options. Sometimes they'll have several options at different levels, and sometimes it's just one. Same thing with, there is a website, what's it called? Hold on, this is gonna drive me crazy. It is called, stay tuned. Oh, so it is, okay, so MuseScore is a music program, but they also have website where you can also purchase lead sheets. And there too, you can Google the song title, put the word lead sheet, and then you can even put the word like easy something. And again, you may have different options show up. Sometimes they'll have easy and advanced levels of stuff, sometimes not. It's just kind of tricky. Now, I will say, all of the lead sheets that I give students are like, for example, the lead sheets for my members of YouTube. If you join and I give you free lead sheets each month, which basically pays for the membership, I will always make sure that the lead sheets I give are at a beginner or intermediate level. I won't, because I don't think it's fair, because I do know that the majority of my YouTube audience is more at the beginner intermediate level. So like when I'm making videos and sending out free lead sheets to people as like the members, I will make sure it's not like a hardcore advanced lead sheet, because that's not fair. What I like to do is have you take an easy lead sheet, but then I show you different ways of turning that into advanced if you want. That's what I'm a big fan of. Even if I'm working with an advanced student, I would rather you be reading off of a quote unquote easier lead sheet, but then you're using your advanced knowledge to improvise and critically think and use your creativity to turn it into something more advanced. So even some of my private students that are more advanced and we're doing more advanced chords, we're taking simple lead sheets, but then we're turning them into more advanced versus here's a really complicated lead sheet. Even to me, I would rather do that. If someone hands me lead sheets to play for at a gig, I would rather be handed a beginner level lead sheet that then I turn into something that sounds advanced versus someone hands me an advanced level lead sheet. Okay, that was a little bit of a tangent, but yes, if you want to go online, there are tons of stuff. Google the song title, the word lead sheet. You will have to pay. Most of them are going to charge you anywhere from like $5 to $7, sometimes $9. That's why I say, like, I'm going to be giving out tons of free lead sheets over the months to my members. The memberships are only like $5, $10, $15 a month, depending on what level you do. I'm going to be giving out probably, $20, $30 worth of free lead sheets a month from that. Because every lead sheet, if you go buy it, the cheapest are usually $5, $6, and sometimes they get up to $9, $10, which is ridiculous for a lead sheet. That's just my 2 cents. So if you're getting free lead sheets from me, that's the one way basically it pays for the membership. That's my 2 cents. But yes, hopefully that can help you. Let's see. Carl says, yeah, let's see. Having issues downloading the ultimate intro. Yeah, if that happens, just email me and I'll just send it directly to you. For some reason, that seems to happen for like 10% of you all. I'll get sometimes emails of, hey, it's not letting me for whatever reason. It's not on my end. It's not an issue with that. It's just some people's computers or internet services for whatever reason say like don't download it, which is silly. It's just a PDF. So if it says a warning, don't. That's not bad. Like my website is not a virus, I promise. It's just a PDF. But for some reason it triggers something. So always try it. But if it doesn't work, please just email me and I'll just reply back and give it to you in the email. Let's see, Mary, that's what I like. Get the basics and learn how to make more of it myself. Absolutely. I'm a big fan of that. Big fan. There are books of lead sheets. Yeah, sometimes better value if you like the contents. Yeah, you can order, if you want to download books at a time, you can often get like a full book too. So there's tons of different ones. So yes, there are lots of different ways to get lead sheets. And then just depending on if there are different versions of it. Sometimes there are, sometimes there aren't. Okay, so I have held you hostage for an hour and a half. I cannot believe you all stick around with me for so long. It truly warms my heart. It's so awesome. I love my lives. It's one of my favorite things I get to do each week. I love hanging out with you all, for real. Let me take this off the screen now. But thank you all, for real. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful that we're building this community together. Many of you have taken lessons from me now, either one-off lessons or you're continuing with me. I love that. I get to meet you and enter your life in a really fun way. We get to have fun for an hour together. So again, if you're interested in that, check out the link in the video description below. If you're interested in supporting the channel, again, no pressure. I'm gonna have tons of free content, but if you are interested in supporting the channel, like I said, every single penny from the memberships goes directly into all of this, like producing this channel, because it's not free to produce it and it takes some money, but I love doing it for you. It's my mission to help as many people as possible. So it's a great way to help support the channel for a super low cost. And like I said, that I just now made the decision this week of how I'm going to pay you back for that is doing these lead sheet videos, because I'm able to give you free sheet music that you would pay, that like I paid for, that you would pay for. So you will get your, I promise you, you'll get your money back each month in that and then some, and have more fun diving down rabbit holes with lead sheets with me. So yes, and if you don't have the PDF, that big PDF that I have created, it's 30 pages long. I've constantly updated that my ultimate intro guide to piano. The link to download it is in the video description. Do try that first, because that's how you get on my email list, because you want to be on my email list because I send fun announcements. So you want to make sure you do that. So always do that first. So go to the link, sign up for the email to download, and then if you have issues after that, when you go to download it, if for whatever reason it's being wonky for you, which seems to happen every now and then just email me and I will reply back and just send it to you. But still, at least if you go through the link, that's how you get on my email list, because I send email stuff constantly, and you don't want to forget them. Oh, thank you, Tim, for joining the bronze level. Thank you. Yes, a lot of you are members now, and I'm so grateful for it. You are truly helping the mission. It is generally my mission to help as many piano players as possible. I truly am. So I hope you all have a wonderful week. Make sure you are checking out my videos. I posted one yesterday, if you haven't checked it out. My next one I'll be posting will probably be Thursday. I think this week will be a 2 video a week, plus obviously this live. Check out this live. And like I said, today I uploaded 2 member only videos. So once you're a member, you can see those as well. So lots of fun stuff. We keep this piano party going. Sherry loves that we have a piano party every week. We just keep it going. Okay, so as of now, I'm planning on live next Tuesday. So you can go ahead and just plan on, I have it in my calendar that the lives are going to be most weeks, Tuesdays, 7 p.m. So you can go ahead and just kind of mark that on your calendars. Matt Hodge piano party every Tuesday at 7. And then usually around like Saturday is I send out an email to the email list and give you a heads up of, hey, this is what this one's going to be. So you can have a heads up. And I usually kind of wait till then to decide because I like to hear your feedback and comments. So I don't know what next week's going to be yet. We'll see. We'll see what happens. It'll be fun. All right, but thank you all so much for hanging out with me. Let me see some final comments here. Oh, Charmaine, thank you. Great PDF. I appreciate that. That took a very long time to build. And I built that literally just for you all. I don't use it with my in-person students because we do our own stuff. So I literally built that 30-page PDF just for YouTube. And I will never charge for that. That is totally free. Like I wanted to help you. And that's a great PDF to have open when you're going through my videos, because a lot of the stuff I show in my videos, whether it's the members videos or the free videos, it's stuff that if I say something that you don't know what that means, 99% of the time it's in that PDF. So the PDF is great to always have just kind of open on your computer when you're watching my videos, because when I say something and you don't know what it means, just pause the video, find it in the PDF, and then rejoin me again. All right. Don, you are always so helpful and so patient, Matt. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Don. You are so wonderful to work with. Gary, love the live chat. Plan on joining soon on your email list. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I really, really appreciate you all. Charmaine, have an awesome week, Matt. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Eric. You all have been so sweet. All right. Oh my gosh, it is 8:40. I'm going to let you go. I have held you hostage. You all have lives. Okay. So thank you so much. You have my heart. Check out the videos coming up. If you would like to join the membership, go ahead and click join under where it says by my name, and then you'll get instant access to the videos. Like I said, I have 2 uploaded right now, and probably I'll get in the habit of having like 2 to 4 uploaded each month that are just for the members. Okay, so have a wonderful evening, everyone. I will see you all live next Tuesday. And until then, keep checking out my videos, keep checking the emails from me, and keep making beautiful music, my friends. You have my heart. All right. Good night, everybody. Bye.